All right. Welcome back to the Outdoor Drive Podcast. It is Thanksgiving weekend. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Definitely. We hope you guys all get out and enjoy the family and break the laws and have Thanksgiving.
This is like camaraderie week. If you guys don't already know that, when it comes to hunting season, Thanksgiving weekend's definitely the weekend.
Best time to get together. Good food, good times, good people.
That's it. Good hunting. A lot of shit dies this week, for sure. Everyone kind of like, well, maybe, meh. It always dies, I guess.
Well, you got gun season in pretty much everywhere that has one. So everyone gets together like you guys did today. You got the drives going on,
Always. I love it. It's a good time with the boys, just get out there and have fun, I mean, we shot a ton of deer this week. So it's just always good, man. I just love getting out with the boys and having fun.
Hell yeah. It's good stuff.
I shot a couple of good bucks and a couple good meat eaters and see what happens. Back to the Duckwoods tomorrow, though. So.
Well, even the old lady pulled one off this week.
Yeah, she shot her first one. That was kind of cool. That was cool to be part of, and we busted our hump trying to get it, and we were able to. Caddy Cowboy at the Caddy Ranch. We got to go over there and hunt on the food plot. That was kind of cool. It's definitely a good time. She fucking smoked that thing. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous.
Gnarly.
I was nervous, because, they never shot a deer before. You know what I'm saying? And especially with the bow, and it's just one of those things, and you see the arrow fly, and then at 12 rings, you're like, oh, your heart stinks a little bit, because where we normally hunt, so in the urban area where I hunt, there's a lot of houses around. So if she was to shoot it and it was a bad shot, then obviously we'd have to be chasing it around the woods. So we didn't have to. She fucking 12 ringed it. And it was, I had called Steven about it because I was a little nervous, especially her shooting 45 pounds or whatever it is, 47 pounds that she's shooting, because you're not getting the path through that we do at 65, 70. I mean, it's decimating. And the Zeus did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, the shot looked good. Everything looked, looked good. And after talking to you and just kind of doing what you do, going through this scenario and how far you'd gone in, what you'd looked at. I mean, it was almost like the exact same thing that happened in Ohio.
Yeah.
Just easier to take a break, go get your gear down, give it time in case. Mm-hmm. And there it was right in front of you.
And it was kind of funny. So my wife's kind of like calm as a cucumber, doesn't really get all excited about everything. And like the anticipation, like deer come out in the food plot and we're just watching them. And I'm like, please just do it. Please just do it. And it just took forever. It felt like it was like 15 minutes until they actually came into range. Like, all right, draw back. So then she draws back and the thing's at 20 yards. She lets it rip. She was still calm and cool. I mean, like, she got a little bit excited. She's like, oh, my God, I did it. But I think more or less she wanted to be able to see it and be there, see that it was dead, before she got all jacked up. And
yeah, but we all know that you're the excited one and she's the grounded one. So it was probably you in the background freaking out and she's going, Trevor, calm down.
It's exactly what happened, actually, 100%. And
kind of what I figured.
Yeah, it was cool, though. And then when she actually found it, because, like, there was no blood because we didn't get the pass-through and the arrow had broke. So, well, actually, I'm sorry. It did have the pass-through. It just didn't go through the skin all the way on the right side of it. So we had just kind of, like, fanned through, and I was like, all right, you go this way, follow that trail down. I'm going to follow this trail down, see if we can find blood or an arrow or something, and then we'll go from there. And I could see her like jumping, oh my God, I found it. And then so we went down to it, and it was dead as a doornail, man. It didn't go probably 65, 75 yards, and it was completely piled up. So it was cool. It was definitely badass.
Awesome. Well, big congrats to Michelle.
Yeah, it was cool, man. We'll have to have the girls get on and kind of follow up and tell their stories on their own and kind of what they did and how they did it. And
tell you one thing. That little ember is on fire this year.
I know, right?
It's smoking deer everywhere.
Jesus, man. Both of them have killed bucks in our home state, so we can't even get that done, dude. Fuck.
Hey, it's all right. Going into the year, that was kind of goal number one.
It was.
And then Ohio was goal number two. At this point,
that's what I said.
That's what
man.
it is.
I mean, that's exactly what I said, because, like, we both accomplished our goals. Our goals are done. Like, whatever happens in this season, I'm over it. Like, I'm good. It's a good season. We had a very successful, good season. The only thing that needs to happen is you need to kill something. I mean, we both got does. I got a buck, but you need to shoot something, man. Like
I will. My gun season ends on west of the Blue Ridge this weekend coming up, or just after the weekend. I got to look.
That's awesome.
So that public land over there will all be gun free again.
Do you still have cameras in there?
No, I pulled everything. So I'll go back in there with the bow, but this weekend we're going to go down to the property on the Carolina border and take the great equalizer. So
nice.
We're going to
loud bow.
Yep. Them lead arrows.
It's awesome.
300 grains.
Nothing better than that, buddy.
So yeah, we're going to sit up and, we've had some pretty good deer blowing through there. Just looking for some of that late rut, second rut action, as the old timers would call it.
Mm. It's kind of been kicking off. I mean, like we were talking the other day, and kind of the cameras have been kind of going a little bit crazy. These bucks are searching for more does, and things are kind of starting to pick up. And you're starting to see them more on feed because they're kind of like in that break, and they're searching. So I think things are really going to start kicking off. You're starting to see scrapes open back up and stuff like that. So,
right.
I mean, I had a ton of bucks in the past 2 days just cruising. So you're seeing them on camera again. So I think things are going to kick off here, and I think a lot of shit's going to die. I really do.
Yes, sir.
I mean, a lot of big bucks have hit the ground, man. A lot of people have been very successful and doing very well, and a lot of deer hitting the ground. It's been a phenomenal season.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure.
Especially the two next big killers we're going to talk to tonight. You guys are in for a fucking treat.
Oh, I got a feeling this one's going off the rails real quick. I mean, how do you top squirrel pouch and moonshine?
No, you don't, man.
I got a feeling there will be a couple good shots at beating that tonight.
Oh, yeah. You add the Ken doll in, and we're fucking ready to go. You guys will all understand a little bit.
I think for sure.
Should we hit this and fast forward, man? Let's turn up this news for your crews and get things underway.
Let's get that thing rolling.
Because if not, we'll be here all night.
Yep. And I'm excited.
Hey everyone, Mike here with some news for your crews. We're going to kick this one off in New York, where the Department of Environmental Conservation has announced a new Why I Hunt and Why I Trap photo essay contest. This is an opportunity for hunters and trappers to share photos and stories about why they hunt or trap in New York State. Photos and essays submitted will be used to support DEC's ongoing efforts to introduce more New Yorkers to hunting and trapping. The DEC commissioner said, whether it's family tradition, a connection to nature, or to feed your family, DEC would like to hear from New York hunters and trappers about what motivates them to venture afield. Please share your stories and photographs and help encourage more New Yorkers to get outside and enjoy hunting and trapping themselves. Participating hunters and trappers may submit photos and essays in one of four categories. The first being youth for under 17 and non-first year hunters, first year hunter youth category, first year hunter adult, and adults for non-first year hunters. Contestants may submit 2 photos with their essay entry. DEC staff will select the best photo essay in each category, and winners' essays and photos will appear in the 2021-2022 New York Hunting and Trapping Regulations Guide. Contest specifications include essays should be nonfiction, original material, not previously published, and told from a first-person perspective. Essays should be no less than 50 words and no more than 500. Limit of 1 entry per person. Maximum of 2 photos per entry. Photos must be taken in New York State, and submissions should be made using the link in the episode description. And the deadline for entries is January 31st, 2021. If you want more information on the contest, you can call 518-412-8963. Email hunter@dec.newyorkny.gov or write to Hunter Education Program, 625 Broadway, 5th floor, Albany, New York, 12233-4754. So let's stick to the Northeast and Connecticut, where we have some fishing news. First, surprise bonus fishery for this fall. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service reached out to the Connecticut Fisheries Division to see if they wanted to make 490 lake trout available to Connecticut anglers as a bonus fishery this fall. So there has been a one-time stocking of the 490 lake trout, averaging 5.3 pounds into Winchester Lake, Coventry Lake, Tyler Lake, Squance Pond, and Bigelow Pond. There is no expectation that these fish will be holding over for an extended period of time. They're not looking to have them be here for multiple years, or that they will reproduce in these waters. The intent is to provide a short-term specialty fishery for anglers in the state. The daily limit will be 5 fish per day, but Deep is asking anglers to spread the wealth and only take what they plan to immediately use. Staying with Connecticut, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection is accepting public comments on proposed freshwater fishing regulations, and will be holding a Zoom public hearing on the proposed regulations on December 1st at 6:30 p.m. You will need to register in advance of the public hearing if you'd like to attend. Some of the changes include changes to bow and arrow fishing regulations, clarifying changes to the creel limit definition, adding a closed season to Black Rock Pond and Walker's Reservoir, removing Black Pond and Mohawk Pond from the list of lakes and ponds with closed seasons, revising some of the carp regulations, and adding Colony Pond, Crescent Lake, and Rogers Pond to the list of lakes with a 3 catfish per day creel limit. So, and I believe that the public comments are due by December 15th on that, if you'd like to submit any. Now off to Kansas, where we'll also be seeing some changes to the fishing regulations for 2021. The first change made by the Kansas Wildlife Parks and Tourism Commission is to reinstate the trout permit for children under 16. That will be at a cost of $7 and will allow them to keep 5 trout. Previously, there was no trout permit required, and children could keep only 2 trout. So reinstatement of the permit will increase the number of certified license holders in Kansas, which means the state can receive more sport fish restoration funding, which is federal funding allocated to states based on the number of license holders. So this will allow them to allocate additional money for restoration in the state, which is fantastic. The commission also approved a reduction in the cost of the one-day fishing licenses for both resident and non-resident anglers. For residents, the cost will go from $8.50 to $6, and for non-residents, it will go from $14.50 to $10. And most significantly, the commission approved an increase in the number of blue catfish that can be caught in southeast Kansas from 5 to 10 fish per day. This change is taking place in 6 rivers, including the Arkansas River. So now let's end this one in Oregon with some good news, where on November 27th and 28th, everyone can fish, clam, and crab for free. No fishing licenses or tags will be required on those days. These days have been set aside for free fishing for several years as part of the hashtag OptOutside movement, encouraging people to get outdoors after Thanksgiving. State parks are also waiving fees for parking on the 27th. And although no licenses or tags are required, all other fishing regulations do apply, including closures, creel limits, and size restrictions. So good luck to anyone that can get out there and take advantage of those days and no license requirements. So with that, as always, if you have any news for me, please send it along. Mike Salter on Facebook or bearded_bowhunter21 on Instagram. And with that, Enjoy the rest of your ride.
All right, man. Thanks again, Mike Salter. We appreciate you, buddy. And you did good, man. Shot a nice buck this week, and gonna keep back at it. So.
Well, we've been telling him the whole season he was gonna, so it's about time.
I know. I'm waiting for him. His pop's got a big one, and hopefully he gets another big one. So
cool.
Well, Mike does at least. So.
Yeah.
All right. Should we
to his dad? What an ass.
What happened?
Said you're giving all the luck to his dad. What an ass.
Oops, sorry. Should we thank those people that deal with our bullshit?
Yeah, let's run through them, man.
All right, let's do it. So first off, I'm going to thank our official sponsor, Timber Tumblers. If you guys haven't checked them out, make sure you get over there, timbertumblers.com. He is the man behind the cup.
Man behind the mug.
Man behind the mug. That's what it is.
There
the
you
man
go.
Behind the mug. Jason, dude, he's the fucking man. He actually made up a couple of Ducks on Bay one for me. So those came out fucking phenomenal. I'll post up a picture of those so you guys can see those on our story. Those ones came out fucking sick. But if you guys want a custom tumbler with your logo, our logo, we have our own little link there. You can get Outdoor Drive podcast ones right there at timbertumbler.com. It's good for the holiday season. Also, Wicked Twisted Bowstrings. It's Wicked Twisted, just if you guys didn't notice. It's not Wicked and Twisted. I've been called out on that recently this week. It's Wicked Twisted Bowstrings. Get Jillified, wickedtwistedbowstrings.com. Use Outdoor Drive 10, I believe, and save
The only
yourself
thing
10%.
twisted right now is your tongue.
Jesus, man. It got me all messed up because I normally have Wicked and Twisted, but it's not. It's Wicked Twisted. Wicked Twisted Bowstrings. So go and check them out. Also, Wild Edge Inc., wildedgeinc.com, the leader in mobile hunting. That's where you can get your perch and your new, what the fuck is that thing? The
Mint.
The Battlement. That's what I thought. There was a couple of names going back and forth. So the Battlement, it's badass platform. It is the perch crossed over with the Out on the Limb bracket. Those two definitely matched up pretty well. Speaking of Out on the Limb manufacturing, Out on the Limb MFG.com for all of your self-filming saddle hunting needs. Get your Shikar sticks over there. You can get the reach. You can also get the reach at what is that website?
Which one are you talking about?
The modernassassins.com. I think you can get it over there.
Yeah.
You can get it a couple different places. So go and check him out also. And who else do we have? Oh, Norris Game Calls. The last batch of Evo calls are out on the market. Did you see those things?
Capitalize. There's only a couple left. No more going out this season.
Nope. That's the end of it. That's the end of the run. Once they're gone, they're gone. If you guys haven't already got them, make sure to get those, nor'eastergamecalls.com. And then we'll get into the turkey calls. Those are going to start coming, the duck calls, and then your late season, like predator hunting and stuff like that. So those will start coming out too. So get on over there, nor'eastergamecalls.com. Also, Broadside Camo. Oh, I see Steve's wears hat. BroadsideCamo.com for your real photorealism camouflage, your Sender series, your early season stuff. Dude, that shit's badass. I'll tell you. You want to stay late season, sitting in the snow? That shit's badass. It looks good, and it's very versatile. So make sure to go check them out. BroadsideCamo.com. And I think that's it. I think that's all of them. What do you say? Is there any more? I like to thank Zeus. I mean, if you guys don't, we always got to check Zeus. Zeus Broadheads.
Yeah, we're good.
Can't forget about Zeus, though.
Oh, yeah.
We're not sponsored, but I just love the fucking thing, so we'll give him a shout out.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, man.
Hold on. I got to prep for this one. Get them.
I know. You guys better take a second.
And...
Yeah, take a second. Have a sip of water. Relax. Sit back. And enjoy the fucking drive on this one.
It's going to get wild. Let's bring them on.
Let's go, man. Nice shot. Here comes a shooter. Shooter. Big buck. Stack. All right, it's about to get hot in here. Hold on.
Dude, no one asked you to take it off.
Well, I figured it was a good idea. I forgot I was wearing long sleeves because I was outside all day. But all right, we're back.
Hold on after he starts.
Yeah. All right, we're back on the line with Ken and Barbie. What's up, guys? How are you?
Can I be? Can I be Barbie?
No, you're Ken. Don't you know?
Oh, I know, but
No.
Thanks for having us on, Mr. Bushman. We really appreciate it. Being on the Jackie Bushman show is always an honor.
That's awesome.
Wait,
Glad to have you, bud.
where the hell's Jackie Bushman?
Oh. I don't see
I was
him.
told by my agent that Jackie Bushman would be here.
it's the facial hair. You just don't recognize them.
Yep, that's it. Actually, which I got to shave. It looks like shit. But
Hi, fellas.
how are you? So we got Clay and Damian. What's up,
What's going
guys?
on?
How are you?
Doing great, man.
Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Taking the time to hang out with us. I know it's going to be a long ride here.
It's all right. What better to talk about, right?
Yeah,
Killing
just-
animals.
especially towards the end of the season, man. Get all jacked up again and
Yeah.
I don't know.
about it.
I still got people hitting me up talking about damn squirrel pouch and moonshine. So I just warned everyone, just be ready.
Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? We'll start with Damian because we haven't had Damian on. Why don't you introduce yourself, man? Who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
I'm Damian Riffle. I'm from East Central Ohio. I'm a barbecue carny. I own a barbecue business, and I'm also a project manager for a communications company, and been hunting my entire life. Spent 4 years in the military, got out in 2000, trail cameras kind of took off, and my passion for chasing big Midwest bucks, or East Coast bucks, as Clay says.
Middle East.
Middle East bucks after when that happened. So, and I've been on a pretty good streak since then. So
Easy enough. I guess.
You, Clay. Why don't you reiterate who you are?
Well, I'm Clay Thurman. I'm from Central Nebraska, and I lied to you last time I was on by accident. I was just talking about how I got started hunting, and I said I killed my first deer when I was 10. I did kill my first deer when I was 10, but I told you I killed my first deer when I was 12 with a bow, and I got to thinking that was my first buck with a bow. I killed a doe the year before, so when I was 11, I lied to you last time. But
just
when you were 10?
say again.
You said you killed your first buck when you were 10 or when you were 12?
First buck with a bow when I was 12.
Nice. That one up there is my first buck with a bow.
About the same size.
Ooh, that could have been bad.
Nobody cares about that deer.
So,
Oh,
yeah, that one's. We're talking about the little guy up on the wall there.
Yeah,
That's
same
awesome.
same deer.
That was the
Same-
number
same
one
type
right
deer.
there. That started it all.
Yeah.
actually, I remember that, Damian, when you were on what is that, Whitetail
Cribs.
Cribs. I remember
Yes.
that. Yep.
Yeah. That,
Mine's still hanging on my parents. I posted a picture of it. My first buck with a shotgun I posted the other day. I had a full real tree suit on, like a bib or a coverall, top to
onesie.
bottom.
We'll call it a
Yeah,
onesie.
the arms were like this long because Dad had sewn them up inside it. Because when I was little, my arms were only about this big. But the legs, Mom took the legs back down, and I could still wear. It just looked like it was like a 3/4 sleeve. It's fancy.
That's awesome. So how did you two get together?
Well, we're both part of Working Class Bone Hunters hunt team, and we're kind of the old farts on the team, I guess, for the most part.
You are.
And Clay was attracted to me, not sure what for. And, he started dropping in my DMs.
Told you.
Sliding right in.
So Barbie went for Ken this time, huh?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And we started chatting, and he called me, and we're both sarcastic assholes, and we just kind of hit it off personality wise, and then we went to the shoot this summer, shot the round with as a group, and just kind of hit it off even more. And then we started planning some trips to do, and that's where it all started. It's where the love began.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
You guys are like two peas in a pod. I love it. I think it's
that working class group. I've made several really good friends out of that group, and it's not that there aren't any that aren't my friends. It's just some of them you click with. I talked to Tim Stancliffe yesterday on the phone. And we were visiting. He had a tree stand spill the other day, so he's got a little bruise in his nether regions, but he's all right.
That's always a scary thing, man.
Yeah, the old harness caught him by the crotchel.
Yeah.
At least he was wearing it.
Yeah.
His lineman's belt caught him. Otherwise, he said he was going to land on a boulder and a tree stump. Both.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good time.
Yeah.
It's more than a bruised ego.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
Lots of people have been falling lately, because that's what I called him for, was what is the deal with everybody falling out of these slick mobile setups? And, is there a connection? Is there something going on? And what his opinion, because I don't put tree stands up and take them down the same day very often. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but
hard to do that with a ladder stand.
Pretty tough. But I don't. I'll hang and bang, as they call it. But that after that day, it turns into a permanent stand. Because if I was going to put a stand there, there's a reason I put a stand there. But he said he didn't think it was a connection necessarily with the equipment. He said it was a connection with guys going up and down 30 times and becoming complacent and not getting strapped in, not getting their steps set and hurrying up the tree. Some guys say they can be up the tree in 7 to 10 minutes. Well, if somebody's trying to be a hero and do that and they're not paying attention,
get careless. Something doesn't click in right. You cinch it tight and that clip is just kind of twisted on there and you step on it and it pops. It's enough. That's all it takes sometimes,
Yeah.
Especially with a lot of the sticks, they're having a lot of dropouts. So like the stick kickouts, they'll shift. You see a lot of that going on, but guys just not standing on them and getting the pressure down so that they're actually cinching down into the tree and they're actually kicking out. And a lot of guys are getting hurt that way also. Especially that's a scary thing. That's when I'm running my sticks, I have aiders on the bottom of them. So when the first thing you do is you step on it and it pulls it down tighter. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to worry about it as much because it bites in. But you're seeing a lot of that, and people are definitely getting hurt. And it's not good.
I guess that's one upside to the wild edge steps, because if it's not on there correctly, it's not going to cam in and be able to step on. So one more upside in that direction.
For sure.
I don't even need a bow rope in most of my stands.
Yeah, the old one-hand climb.
That's right.
I've seen some of your setups this year, Clay. I don't even think you basically just had to step up onto the platform, didn't you, on a couple of them?
Oh, man. I hunted lower that, you know what? Let's save that. Let's talk about that during the whitetail stuff, because
all right.
That's pretty interesting. I just hunted low a lot. So
really,
yeah,
you with a lot of people. It seems like
it was
in
weird.
Nebraska. He's hunting shrubbery.
There's no damn trees.
Right.
So so Damian and I, once we got hooked up and we kind of became pals. I think I insulted him one time on one of his posts, and then after it, didn't I?
That's when I knew I loved the guy, because I was shooting 100 yards slow motion in my backyard with a lighted knock, and I posted a video, and my wife recorded it, and I said, "Man, my gut looks like it sticks out." And this bastard right here, first thing out of his mouth is he comments, he's like, "I hate when my belly," what'd you say? "I hate when my belly photo bombs me."
Only I got belly. Ken's got a freaking washboard over there. I'm not Barbie. I am not Barbie, by the way. That's not how this little relationship. I'll be the dream boat. I'll be the Jeep.
So
I am not Barbie.
Ken and Beulah?
Yeah.
Malibu Barbie.
If you give me a nickname, just Steve, I will give you one.
Oh no, Steve got a nickname.
They keep trying. I'm I'm just Steve.
I'm almost certain I've seen that Nebraska Barbie in the toy aisle.
Yeah, Husker Barbie.
Corn Husker Barbie.
She's a little thicker than some of the other Barbies.
Just a little.
That's okay. This day and age, that's all right.
We had a hell of a year so far. Some bad luck here and there, but
yeah, so what was the first time that the two of you guys got to hunt together, or what were you guys had planned some hunts? And
so when we were out at the shoot, we started talking about it, and Clay's a freaking mule deer killing stud, and I had never shot a mule deer, and honestly, they had never been crazy high on my wish list, but I've knocked some of my bigger wishes off, and mule deer were coming onto my radar, and we started talking about it, and to be all honest, Clay was straightforward and said, I've been burnt a couple other times, taking buddies out, and I said, well, and he had never killed a bear, and I have family in a pretty good area for bears, and I'm 100% success with them. Oh, my dog just walked in, and I said, well, how about you come out here this year and, try to bear hunt. And then, if you feel like it was on the up and up and you have some success or whatever, and then next year you can invite me mule deer hunting. That was the plan. And then it was probably, 3 weeks before opener, he calls me up and, he's like, hey, man.
Barely 3 weeks.
Barely 3 weeks, yeah. And he said, hey, man, I know our plan was, next year, but I'm sitting here thinking about, I'm going to deer camp by myself and who I could invite. And he's like, what am I thinking? He's like, that's kind of a dick move. So he's like, you want to go to mule deer camp? And I was like, absolutely. I'd love to. And that's pretty much how it all started. So we made the plans, and I drove 16 hours out there? Something like that. I don't even remember now. And pulled into the house there and had to beat Ashley away from me. She just was attacking me, and had to lock my door at night, and it was kind of sketchy. I was like, man, I didn't know what I wasn't in there for all that. And,
next time he comes back, he's got to fall asleep at some point, and she's probably going to get him back for that comment.
And then, we kind of talked about our expectations, and he walked me through his house and showed me some of the bucks he had mounted. And, he's got some absolutely just beautiful mule deer he's killed and has mounted there in the house. And, I told him, in all honesty, like a dream to go out there. Like I wanted to go out there and kill a good representation of a mule deer. I didn't want to go out there and shoot a little fork horn. I didn't want to go out there and shoot something small. And, I said, honestly, if I came out here and I shot a 160 or anywhere above that or whatever, I would be absolutely ecstatic and couldn't ask for anything more. And he's like, well, you'll probably end up shooting the first 2-year-old you see. I said, I don't know about it. And he's like, nah, you'll be surprised. And so I was like, well, maybe. You never know. So we loaded up and drove the other, 3 hours to
about 3.5.
3.5, yeah, something like that. And
the reason I say that about the 2-year-old thing is guys that have never seen mule deer like shit down their leg when they see a 2.5-year-old mule deer, because if that were a whitetail, he's got 14-inch twos, 15-inch twos, and they freak out. And even if they're killers, I mean, Damian's obviously a big buck killer. Even if they're killers, when they see that 2.5-year-old frame, I'll still do it from time to time. You go, oh gosh, there's a shooter. And then you have to pull focus and go, no, that is a small animal. Because even a 2.5, well, this deer's 2.5.
Yep.
That's a 2.5-year-old?
That's 2.5-year-old deer.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that deer prancing through a field. I mean, I've got my Chuck Adams arm extenders on too, but you see this deer prancing through a field. That's a big whitetail, right? So a lot of guys, they don't quite understand when somebody says, I want a 160-inch deer. They might not know what they're talking about, and that deer right there would have been an excellent representation of the species. He's 135 inches, but he'd have been an excellent representation of the species. Forks, it's a win. So,
do they normally?
And we'd also talked. That one didn't have any brows at all. Right. Lots of mule deer don't, but as a general rule, in my area, they do where I hunt. So,
now, did you make that rule? Did you tell them they had to?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
Thurman's handbook must grow brow tines.
Yeah, it's in the life lessons.
So when they get tired of you shooting them, they're just going to stop growing them.
Something like that.
And must know how to squirrel pouch.
Yeah. So here's something that Damian was really, he took a little bit of a chance, not knowing what he's going to see or what he's going to do. And this is why I said the last time that if you have a guy in camp with you, that's the guy you want to have in camp with you. Because his expectations are correct, but I also made our deal clear, clear, which was before anything started, before we agreed, it wasn't like he showed up and we made the deal. Basically, it was, this is my hunt. You're here to help me get a deer. And once I fill my tag, we'll work to fill your tag. And I can help you get access to, all the places that I'm really blessed to have permission on or things like that. And, he's nodding his head, you know what I mean? So, and I also said anything I passed, obviously he could have at any time. So it was really nice of him to agree to that.
He's leaving out the part. He sent me a contract.
Oh, damn.
He's like, because he had been burnt, he goes, now you might laugh, but I had this contract and you gotta agree to it. And he sent it over to me and I had to laugh because it's all, to me, honestly, to anybody, it should be just common sense kind of respect sort of things. You won't talk to landowners. You won't exchange phone numbers with landowners, the landowners' kids. You won't seek permission. And if I did, I had to bring all my deer mounts out to Nebraska, and he got to burn them. That was
he stood by quietly. The quietly part, he had to watch while I burned them. And it was on a day of my choice. So Christmas Day this year, we were going to have a campfire.
Fair enough.
I think that's a great agreement. I think everyone should be in that.
Right? It was great.
There's a difference between taking somebody hunting where they live and them getting permission. And then there's another thing. Hunting ground is hard to come by. And there are some great people that have taken a chance on me and allow me. And truly, they are allowing. There's no money. There's no anything. They're just saying, hey, we'll let you hunt. And a lot of these places, not a lot of them, but some of these places are places where no one gets to hunt, other than family. And they're allowing me to go in there and bow hunt. So when I take someone there, casual pleasantries with the landowners as far as it goes. You know what I mean? I took somebody one time and he was asking the landowner that day in front of me for permission to turkey hunt. And what just happened? So
I'd break his legs.
He's my friend. So, you get over it, but that's not the agreement. And so that's where I learned that, plus another couple other things. That's where I learned that I want to be clear on what my expectations are so that he knows. And it was wildly clear, wasn't it, Damian? It was 2 pages.
It was great. I loved it. It was, like I said, it's everything that was in it to me was common sense and respect to the person. Cause it was a privilege for me to be able to go out there and hunt his private property that he has permission to hunt. So in no way, shape, or form would I ever pursue, talking to the landowners or exchanging, Now, he didn't say anything about the landowner's grandkids, so I did land their phone number. So that wasn't.
It's there was a clause in there about distance. Distance clause.
Maybe. I think there was. You're right.
I'll guarantee you there was. There was nothing that you could do. He can't even contact him on MySpace. It's specifically listed.
That was the last social media that Clay fucking used. That's the only reason MySpace was not there.
That's funny.
So anyway, that was all planned out, and we go out there, and he had just landed a new farm, and we decided we were going to camp on this farm.
Took me 8 years for that gentleman to give me permission. 8 years.
And just keep harping on him?
No, you just ask him, and and he'd say, well, I got some family going on, and the one time I saw him on the road and we were visiting. I would just stop to say hi, and I basically had quit asking. And then that was the year that I'd really gotten burnt at a different place, and he said, well, you can come down my way. And I'm just, you know what I mean? I couldn't believe it. So, and it's beautiful. Damian, go ahead. I didn't mean
sorry, didn't mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's that's the way these stories will go. He's got a little bit to put in. I have some. So, and he's right, man. We pulled in there, and it just pulling in that place, you just got that vibe, as a deer hunter, and I'm not a mule deer hunter, but it just looked deery,
It was deery.
It was just semi-chub going on, pulling it, driving down this road, right? And we got camp set up and started glassing that evening. And I think, what did we see, a whitetail or something? One whitetail that first evening up there on that bluff.
We went up to what do we call it? The Eagle's Nest.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went up there and we saw
a whitetail
for 2 seconds.
I think it was two does or something way off, and that was it. And I'm telling you, it couldn't look like better terrain. It was just canyons and just brush, and it was just beautiful. But
big canyons,
there,
big canyons,
deep canyons.
What do you think? 500, 600 foot cliffs and stuff. Maybe not that.
Yeah, not big. Quite that. That's Grand Canyon stuff there, but
really?
Oh yeah.
Well, it was big.
It
big. I'm fat. I don't like to walk up them.
Yeah, that's true. And that part he's accurate on. So the problem was we're there the 1st of September, and all the crops are standing. Well, clearly all the deer were in the crops because there was nothing in these canyons, and
you could see. You can see.
Yeah. And we were there prime time, the sun was setting, if deer were up and moving, you were going to see them. And we didn't see a single, we saw those two way, way off. And that was the day we arrived. And then the next morning was the day before season. That was a straight 100% scout day. And we got up and we started scouting. We scouted that farm again in the morning. We saw one little buck, or Clay spotted it way off going into the corn. Wasn't anything great. That evening, I stayed there to glass, and then Clay drove, 12 miles or so?
10-ish.
Yeah, 10-ish miles over to the other farms that he had permission to hunt. And he was going to glass over there. I was going to glass on that property. And I didn't see anything that evening either. I saw a couple white-tailed does come out of the corn, skirt the edge, and then went back in. And that was pretty much it. And Clay comes back to camp, and he said he's seen some deer, and he had photos of this one buck that he had driven by on the ranch road. And you could tell it was a big mature deer. Just it had a big belly on him, and you could tell just by his body size. But it was very last light when he saw him. And I guess you tell this part, Clay.
Yeah, as I drive by, mule deer aren't like whitetails. When you drive by them on the road, they they nonchalantly look your direction, you know, whereas a big whitetail buck, that might happen, but you're never going to get 2 chances at him, right? Your brake lights come on and they leave. They're just more skittish, even if people aren't road hunting them. So when I come around the corner, I see deer on this ranch road right there. So as I'm looking, I say, well, that's a nice deer. And I'm trying to film, I'm trying to drive, and you can't go very fast, and you also can't go too slow. So at 20 miles an hour, I'm trying to give him the old, video him on the way by. I make it down to the end of the lane. I turn around, I come back. And this time I'm trying to hit him with the window down, and I'm trying to hit him with pictures on the way by. And they just didn't do justice. But I knew it was a big deer, but I also knew that it was the day before season, and it was missing a top and missing a front. And right then, that wasn't my kind of deer. So
he comes back and he shows me these photos, and again, it kind of goes back to our conversation where, he's telling me I can go after any deer that he passes before he kills. And I was pretty adamant, I feel like, saying that if you're going to pass it, more than likely I'm not willing to shoot it, right? And he's like, well, we'll see. So he shows me these photos of this deer, and you could see big body, and you could tell he had antlers, but he's standing along the side of standing corn, and it's extremely low light. It's a moving photo, really grainy, and it's you can tell he has antlers, but that's about all you can tell from him.
Right.
And, I'm like, I don't think so. He's like, well, that's not something I'm ready to go after, the day before season. And I'm like, okay. And that was kind of the end of that, So the next morning we get up and we go glass, and we saw a few decent bucks, but nothing great. And we're kind of separated, and I'm trying to find him a buck that he wants to go after. And I think I saw like a 140 type buck, maybe somewhere in that ballpark. And then that was it for the morning. And we go back to camp, and we're sitting there, and, Clay starts talking, and he's like, I think you ought to go after that buck I saw last night this evening. And again, I'm not like too crazy about the idea. He didn't look like much in the photos. And, and he's like, I'm telling you, he's like, that's a big mature buck. You should probably go after him. And then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? I said, self, I'd much rather be hunting than trying to just sit on the field edge someplace trying to find this Yahoo a deer. And I'm like, you know what? And then I said it to him. I was like, well, what happens if a 160 steps out? And he goes, well, you better shoot it. But if a 200 comes out, you better come get me.
No deal.
Yeah, don't shoot the 200s. Don't shoot the 200.
So I was like, you know what? I'll go over there and take a look at him, and see what happens. And it was kind of a shit show setup. And I'm sitting right on the fence row, right off the corn, and there, and where the buck came out the night before. And I didn't have a whole lot of confidence in that setup, and I'm in a ghillie suit on the ground, but didn't see much. It was dead calm, and I could hear deer in the corn moving, like the stalks rustling around. And about just at very last light, the way that field edge put up, it was mowed, and it was about the width of about a 1-lane road. It was, pretty narrow between the corn and the fence. And it had a small rise to it. And right at the apex of the hill, I see a deer step out, silhouetted at like 200 yards. So I pull up my binos, and it was a little dinky buck. And while I'm sitting there looking at him, a second one steps out, and I take my binos down, and I'm just kind of judging the distance. And about then I see a third body step out of the corn, silhouetted on the skyline. And I pulled my binos up, and I said, holy shit. I saw 17-inch G2s en masse. And I'm like, oh, damn. It kind of was like, I'll shoot that son of a bitch. And I'm questioning. I'm like, is this the same deer that he was talking about? And I could see the one side had a pretty weak fork, and I was like, that's got to be him. And I'm like, I'm not gonna go back and rave about how big this deer is, and Clay be like, you know what? Maybe I ought to take a second look at this deer. So like, yeah, I go back and I told him I saw him, and he just came out too far, and it got dark. And when it got pitch dark, I walked down the field edge and around for Clay to come get me, so we didn't disturb anything. And then the next day we hunted the morning. We was that the morning you tried to stalk that? Yeah, the one we saw over there with us in the sun. Wasn't that the second morning, Clay? Where I stayed in the truck and dropped you off, and then I drove back around.
Yeah, that was the morning after, where they were walking that corn edge.
Yeah. So Clay put a stalk on one.
He was mid 150s, mid 160s. He had all his forks. He just wasn't huge.
Yeah.
He was just pretty standard.
And that stalk got blown by a doe or something, ended up busting you, didn't she, in the corn?
No, I had him. There was 4 bucks, and I had them all there. I had crept up to the corn, and there was a really nice contour, and where the canyon kind of dipped into the corn a little bit, there was a couple small trees. So I was just able to basically jog, move quickly.
It was more of a walk. It was very much a walk.
Airborne shuffle.
Anyway, so I sauntered toward. There you go. I sauntered towards the deer, and I was able to get within like 25 of the smallest buck, but as it turns out, the bigger deer had just went into the corn. And at that point, the smaller buck nails me. Everybody else kind of walks out, and I'm drawn back, and I've got the deer in my sights at 40 yards. But right in front of me where he was, I had corn in front of me, and then he had corn just in front of his vitals, and I'm just not going to do that, So one of those hope and pray kind of things. But in the end, that one got blown.
So that was our morning. And then we went back to camp, made some lunch, and it's like 95 degrees. It's hot, It was pretty damn hot that day and sunny. And I told him, I said, you know what? I want to go back after that buck this evening, I think. And I want to go in and kind of give myself a little bit of a ground blind, because I just felt crazy exposed where I was at. And so I went and cut a small cedar there by our campsite and hauled it over there on the 4-wheeler and threw it over the fence and kind of brushed it in. And then I went driving up that ranch road, and it kind of turned around, and I'm just kind of going slow. And so when them deer were coming out of the corn, there was, like I said, that like 1.5 car wide strip that you could drive a truck down basically. And then there was a barbed wire fence. And then there's like a deep, like ditch that was like, I don't know, 8 feet wide and probably 4 feet deep, or 3.5 feet deep at the deepest. And then I went up to the ranch road. Across the street was a hay field. Right in the middle of that hay field was a straight wall canyon, like a little mini Grand Canyon, that just straight walls, really deep, just almost like a crevice. And as I'm coming back down the road, I just glanced, as I paralleled that canyon, I just glanced, and one of the small bucks he was with went shooting down that canyon. He was bedded in that straight wall canyon and went running down it. And I didn't stop. I'm like, oh shit, maybe they're bedded in the pasture side, or the big one's over there too this evening. I didn't know. And I went back to camp, and, we discussed my strategy. And then I looked up the wind, and the wind was shifting. So the blind I had built was going to be no good for the evening. And so I
100% wrong. Not even like a little bit okay.
Just absolutely 100% wrong. And I told him, I said, well, I can take the 4-wheeler back down that road, park all the way at the end of the corn, and walk back and just hunt inside the edge of the corn. and hope the buck comes out, you know. And you got, I guess, not knowing the terrain, it's difficult to explain. So out there, anything that's flat is agriculture. Anything that isn't flat is a canyon and is cattle pasture, pretty much. And these canyons will feed, you know, you'll have these big fields on the ridges, and these canyons will have little fingers that kind of feed up into the fields. And them deer will run them canyons and go right across the ag field. And when I got up there I'm jumping ahead of myself. So those bucks will bed in those canyons and then feed through that corn, jump the fence, go over to the hay pasture at night, right? And I told him if I could step inside the corn and try to catch them deer as they came out of the corn. And he said, or you could drive all the way around the section in the four-wheeler, go down through the cattle pasture, and come up the very last canyon, which had no trees or anything. It was just an open canyon. And that way there's no disturbance of any of the deer in the corn. They don't hear the four-wheeler going down the road or anything, you know? So I thought that was the wisest thing to do. So I get in there, park the four-wheeler, and I get to the corn, and I start walking down the corn. And now as I'm walking down the corn, every time I would get in line with one of those canyons that fed up into the corn, the crop deprivation was just amazing. You would go from 8-foot corn stalks to waist-high corn. It was just a bowled out where the deer were coming through there just munching. And I was like, holy shit, this is a hell of a trail. Well, then, you know, I go to another 80 yards or 100 yards, and there's another one. And I go 80 or 100 yards, and there's another one. And I'm like, well, Jesus, which one's he going to come out? You know, it's a guessing game.
Whack-a-mole.
Well, right. And what I ended up deciding to do is there was a roll to the hill or roll to the topography. And I felt if I got to the apex of the hill, I could see 6 or 8 of those canyon trails coming up out of that through that corn that I could potentially hunt. And if I stayed all the way back to hunt the first 2, I could only hunt 2 because I couldn't see over the hill for the rest of them. Right. So I'm like, okay.
And even if from the apex he were to come to those down ones, you could still see behind you, and
yeah, but he
might not win you until that point in time.
True. So there was an option for the 2 behind me as well. But so that was my game plan. So after walking in, and it's 5:00 in the evening, September 2nd. So we're still several hours from dark. And I go walking back up, and just as I get to where I'm like, okay, this is where I want to be set up, I look up for whatever reason, and at like 200 yards, I see the big buck walking right down the ranch road, walking straight towards me. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, there he is. You know, I'm like, it kind of dumped out. And what it turns out, he was bedded in that canyon across the street. And I think he just got hot, and he was headed to water, because on the opposite side where he typically had bedded is where the cattle trough and the watering is. And I think he was heading to water. And he was just walking down that ranch road. And as soon as I saw him, I just stepped into the first edge of corn, and I started slowly walking towards him because he's, 200 yards away. And
wind's in his face.
Wind's in my face. He's walking with it straight at his back, and couldn't have been a better situation. And every time he would get to one of those canyons where they would come across and jump the fence and go into the pasture, that buck would stop, survey the fence, look at the bottom, and look over top of it, trying to figure out how easy it would be for him to cross. And because of that ditch, it was very difficult for him to jump it at that most of the locations. And his rack was too big; he couldn't, duck under it. So he would look at that one, and then he'd be like, "Nope," and he'd start walking. And he's in the ditch at this point, and all I could see was his rack walking. And I just
bear in mind, his rack is so big that he can't get through a loose 3-strand barbed wire fence. And I was like, yeah.
You can have him. I don't want him. He's just a little guy. Not what I want. So I'll take sloppy seconds. And So he just kept going to each one, and now he's done past like 3 of these crossings and said, nope, can't cross here. And he gets to the next one, and I'm looking at it, and now I'm on my knees because he's within bow range. I didn't know the yardage at that point, but I knew he's in my kill zone at this point. And I'm kind of on my knees, and I kind of crawl out to the edge, and I figure, even if he doesn't cross there, he's just going to keep getting closer and closer, right? And I wanted to be ready. So I'm kind of half in the corn, half out of the corn, and he gets up to the fence, and he walks up, and he touches his chest to the fence, and he looks over, and then he backs up, and he kind of squats down again to try to squirt under the fence, and then he goes back up, and he touches his fence again, and he just sits there, and he looks for the longest time, and I'm like, he's going to jump right here. I could just tell by his body language he's going to jump that fence. So I got ready, and I shoot the Garmin Zero sight,
right?
And so I got ready, and that buck, when he loaded his back legs to jump, I drew back on him, and he jumped that barbed wire fence, and he hooked his back leg on the fence as he jumped, and he starts yanking on his back leg, and it's zinging like a banjo string coming down past me. It's just like zing, zing, and he's yanking on his leg, which was perfect because it gave me time to range him with my sight. And he was 67 yards, and he yanked his leg loose, and he took like 4 steps to the edge of the corn, and I'm just got the pin on him, and he stops, and his head's totally in the corn, and he's just smelling the trail. And I start putting pressure, and the shot breaks, and I could see the arrow going about halfway, and then at full sun, I just lost sight of the arrow, and it looked like it was drifting a little bit back, but it still looked like it was there. And I heard the wallop, and he mule kicked and ran into the corn. I heard corn for 5 seconds, 10 seconds at most, and then dead silence. So I'm all excited. I just shot and hit my first mule deer. And so I call up Clay, and I'm like, dude, you're not going to believe this. I just shot him. He come in, and he's like, well, how big was he? I'm like, I don't know, 160, I'm guessing, And he's like, all right. He's all excited. And he's like, well, I'm on my way. So I hang up the phone with him, and I no more than hang up the phone with him, and I hear corn crash. And I'm like, that sounded like a deer crashed. And I'm like, now I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, that was a deer crash. I just felt like that's the only thing it could have been. And so Clay pulls up, clear down where I had saw the buck, and he jumps the fence, and he starts walking towards me, right? Straight line. I haven't moved from where I shot that buck yet. And, we get on the cell phone, and I'm ranging him with my rangefinder, and he hits 75 yards. I'm like, my arrow, if I got a pass through, should be right there. And what'd you take? Like 3 more steps? And he's like,
I was at 90. I was at 90 from what I remember. And I was asking you to tell me when I was at 90, and you did. Because at that point, if he was at 65, now I got 30 yards to look for an arrow.
Yeah,
because they're probably not going to go much farther than that. I took 2 steps, and we had basically finished the sentence, and I go, oh, shit, it's right here. So
hell yeah.
He sees the arrow, and he's like, well, we got blood. And he said, but there's stomach matter here. And I'm like, that anytime you have stomach matter, you know how it is. It just kind of guts you a little bit.
And that's broadside deer.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, it kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit. And he said, but there's a lot of blood here. And then he takes a few more steps, and he looks into the corn, and he goes, a lot of blood. So I'm like, okay, I'm coming. So I get up there to him, and we're looking at it, and you can clearly see in the corn. It looked like somebody had 2 paintbrushes in each hand and just ran through the corn and
there were splashes of blood. Like if I poured this bourbon out on the ground, that much blood.
So
it was dark red though.
Yeah, it was dark red. So we're sitting there discussing it, and he said, well, this is your hunt. He said, I'm not telling you that we need to push this deer, but he's like, if it were me, I would go after it, right? And I'm like, it's 95 degrees out, and I'm certain that I heard a deer crash. And I said, so, you know, we'll go in a little ways. If the blood peters out, we'll back out, you know. And we start trailing this deer. And
not to mention, I'm going to interrupt you. Had we pushed this deer, he was going to bump into a canyon, and we could have seen that happen.
Yeah, for the moment. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Tracking.
So we decide to go after him. We start tracking him, and it's pretty easy. But so we start going into the corn, and from where I shot him to where I heard that crash, it sounded like it was in between those 2 points where we were and where I was. It sounded like the deer almost ran towards me.
He came back towards you. Yep.
Yeah. And that's where I heard the crash. So I'm blood trailing, and I keep looking down the rows of corn to my left, right? Not looking to the right at all. And I keep going down. We got really good blood. And Clay goes, I smell him.
I grabbed him on his shoulder. I was standing right next to him. I grabbed his shoulder. I said, I smell him. He's right here. And you could see it. Like, I've got the video of the recovery on my YouTube channel, that Buck Collector Clay channel. So at that point, and I don't do a good job of telling this in the video. I grabbed him and I said, I smell him. And I'm fumbling for my camera, and I let go of him, and I look over my shoulder, and that son of a bitch is right there, dead, like 6 foot behind me. So, and I'm not going to spoil that. I'm fumbling with my phone, and I'm like, check over there, and I like, the deer's here. I'm like, check over. What? You see any blood over there?
I'm not the only asshole that does that.
Right before he sees it, and then I said, just track him. And you hear me say that in the video. It's just track him.
Follow the blood, he says. Follow the blood.
Follow the blood. Just track him.
And at this point, we're to the point where the deer had made the hard right and walked down the aisle, and we're going this way. I'm looking left. So I keep looking ahead, and now there's no blood. And for whatever reason, I just glanced to my right, and about 8-10 feet away, I just see this big gray ass laying there. And I let out a exciting hee or whatever I said.
If you listen close in that video, you'll hear me edit. I had to take out a second because he kept going, holy shit. Holy shit. So if you look,
I know the feeling.
Video, it goes, holy.
Yep. Yep.
And, you know, when I walked up on him, you know, I said I couldn't be any happier if I shot a 160. And as it turns out, he scored 160 and an eighth. And he had 17-inch G2s. He was 25 inches wide and had 7.5 inches of bases. And he, as a mule deer, he scored like shit and still scored 160 inches. He didn't have great forks. He was lopsided. He was missing a fork. Well, it wasn't missing. He had a small fork on the right. He had a small front on the one opposite side. He was just lopsided, but he was full velvet, crazy heavy mass. And wide. I mean, it was the widest buck you've ever killed out there, wasn't it, Clay? Didn't you say that? Or
what was he wide?
25.
Yeah, wider than anything I've ever killed. They're not real wide here. You got to get into Colorado a little bit before you get those. I'm not saying nobody's ever killed a 30-inch wide deer in Nebraska.
Sure,
I'm just saying,
but
you know,
for that area,
they're 20.
That was a pretty wide buck, and you know he everything that makes a mule deer score he didn't have. And he still scored 160 inches. And
for reference, here's some reference. He's missing his if he's a whitetail, he's missing his G2 and a brow and his 4 on the other side. And he still made
Is that all?
Yeah. That's the reference. And
the deer had 7.5-inch bases.
Crazy
nice.
Heavy. Like
nice.
Just full velvet, just insane, just an awesome buck. And you know, I couldn't have been more excited, you know, and grateful at that point, you know, and the fact I only had to drag him 30 feet to where we could drive.
That was beautiful.
Right. That's always.
He's like, he said somebody said something about, we're going to gut him and let's get all that taken care of. And I said, I'll go back and get the sled. I throw him the sled because I just had a black pull behind sled from Menards. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It just makes it easier.
Right.
So I tossed him the sled, and I'm doing fumble, screwing around, doing something, getting a drink of water or whatever. Here comes Ken dragging this deer back. Just
look at me, Barbie.
He's like, well, I'll just throw him through the fence here, and he picks him up, bench presses him a couple times, gently lays him over the fence.
Shoulder press.
Right. I don't even know what that is.
No. That's not a thing in our repertoire.
Yeah. That's funny.
For me, that was let me think, other than Ashley, that was the first time, and my brother, of course, growing up and things like that, but I was close to this hunt. You know what I mean? I had been a part of this hunt, and a guy had driven across the country. Now, no matter what agreement we made, that was more of a safety for me, right? What it was is I have complete control of this hunt. And I was happy, absolutely elated that he killed this deer. There was never once, and I hope you didn't feel this way, but there was never once where I was like, damn it, like actually upset, that he killed it.
I never got upset. You were honest and then said, yeah, I probably shouldn't have passed that deer. which is just honesty. That's not
had I got to hold that deer's rack up inside my trophy room before I shot it, I'm not passing that deer. Like I'm not that studly, right? You gotta be something to pass a deer like that. That's 7.5 inches around.
Think about it.
Right?
Think about it.
same size as Clay's biceps.
Oh.
Now we get back with the insults. It's nice to see you again, Mr. Insult.
It's back.
Can't be too nice for too long.
I couldn't have been happier. I could not have been happier. And like I say, it couldn't have happened. And I don't know if I fully grasped the quality of a hunting camp partner that he was at that point in time. And I found out the next day. So, but he got in there and I just started drinking whiskey. We got back to camp. I just started drinking whiskey. I'm like, I'm going to help, but, I'll hold a leg. So I'm on vacation, So, and he's happy. And we got done about 10:30, 11 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
And had him caped out. And you caped him fully, didn't you? Took him clear off the skull.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, we had it all taken care of that night. We were able to start the next day. And I had just acquired, while we were on that trip, I had acquired like 1,500 more acres of some really good stuff. And I wanted to go check that out. And in reality, I was driving that on a four-wheeler. I went and just drove their canyons, you know what I mean? Because I don't care if I bump a deer. I want to bump a deer. I want to see animals. I want to see what's happening. Because we've got 6 days left, 5-6 days. And I come up out of that canyon and my phone just goes absolutely berserk.
Well, you got to remember, like we knew just from driving the roads in the area where he had got permission, there was no cell service. So when we split up that evening, I told him, anytime you come out of that canyon, check your phone. Because if I find a buck, you need to know, that I found him. So
you need to make a move on it.
Right.
Yeah, it was probably 2 o'clock when we separated.
Probably somewhere around there.
And probably, it was getting dark. 6:30-ish? I don't remember. 6 o'clock.
No, it was later than that. We're talking September.
Oh, that's right. Pre-time change.
Yeah. It's probably 8:30 still or later when it was getting dark.
Yeah. So whatever time it was, there wasn't tons of time left. There was an hour and a half of light left, roughly.
Probably.
So I came up out of there.
That.
What's that?
the sun was starting to kind of
think about it.
Yeah.
It's probably a half hour before the sun touched horizon. So my phone just starts exploding, and I look down, and it's do-do-do, 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 big buck. I got a big buck spotted. Where are you at? Why aren't you answering your phone? Bang, 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 bang. And of course, now I can't dial because my phone is going nuts. So finally, I get a hold of him, and he says he's got a big deer spotted, but he's clear in the back corner of where we need to be. So
way in the back corner.
Way in the back corner. And I'm very dangerous over short distances. I'm pretty spry, but he was back far enough that this is going to be a very, very serious hike. A lot of this ground is a mile long, or three-quarters of a mile long, a lot of these canyons that we're hunting. And they're not flat. So he calls me, we get on the phone together, and he said, I'm a long ways back in here. You can get to, here's where I'm at. And I said, okay.
I think pen drop, didn't I? An Onyx pen drop?
Something along those lines. So I hop off the four-wheeler and I take off his direction. And I don't know how far it was.
He called me. And he said, I'm off the four-wheeler. I'm here. I'm on top of the hill. So, and I'm just over the back side of this hill. So I walk up to the top of the hill, and I look, I don't know, 8 canyons away, and there's little tiny Clay just standing on the skyline, just little tiny dot. And I wave at him. He sees me, and he's like, I'm on my way. And I'm like, okay. So I'm just standing there, and I'm watching this deer, and the buck bedded. I watched him bed, and I have him my tripod set up, my bino set up on the tripod, and the buck is dead center of my binos. And I'm standing there, and every once in a while I'd glance and kind of get a feel for where Clay was coming, and you just see him top over one, drop down one. And then a little bit later I'd look and top over one, drop down one, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I hear walking, and I look, and he's coming down the opposite side of the small little canyon that is in between us. And he comes up and drops down, and he's coming up my side. And Clay is, believe it or not, he runs a lot of marathons. And you wouldn't guess it by the look at him. And
when people tell me there's a big deer, I run marathons.
Yeah.
He looked angry. His face was red, and he had this I'm here to kill something look on his face. And he walks up there, and I try to talk to him, and he just holds his hand up shut up. Let
me tell you why. I did. I went, don't talk to me. And it was because I was ready to die.
Yeah, he was ready to have a coronary.
I am about to go full blown 39-year-old coronary time. I'm going to die right there on this hill, because I had made it whatever distance that was on flat surface. If I did a 12-minute mile, something just happened, right? And I'll bet it wasn't 12 minutes.
I don't think so.
And I was there.
He was there.
And to give you, Trevor, I don't know. Are you a runner?
No. Do I look like a fucking runner?
I'm not going to insult you. Maybe you're like,
right.
I run 7 miles a day.
I try.
So imagine something that if you were to hike at a really good, strong double time pace up and down the other side, that it would take you 3 to 5 minutes to recover from.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like
every
I
one
drug
of
you
those
up at
hills
turkey
is one
season.
of those. Every one of those is one of those. And I summoned some sort of hillbilly magic shit,
Conjured
Is that farm boy strength?
Yes. Yeah. Is that what they call it? Farm boy strength. We call it something different.
Yeah, there's some other word for it, but I'm going to go Y'all know where it is. I don't need to explain myself.
So he gets there, and I give him a minute to catch his breath, and I tell him
I'm really hurting. I'm not in fear. There's no fear, but I'm really, really in trouble at this point.
His face is about as red as you could imagine somebody's face being. And it was kind of blotchy, so it was like he didn't have that Barbie glow that he has right now.
No. He didn't have rosy red cheeks.
And so he's catching his breath, and I'm like, that buck's dead center of my binos. So he gets a little bit of his wind, and he walks up and he puts his face to my binos. He looks across the canyon, and that buck's probably 800 yards, I'm guessing, across the other side of the canyon, bedded. And
he's probably about 650.
650, okay.
He's ways.
We'll go 650. And he looks across there and he said, how far do you think that bush is? I said, I don't know, 50 yards. I'm guessing something 650 yards away. He goes, I think it's 42 or something like that. And I didn't say think. That was the end of the conversation. This son of a bitch was gone. Like, he's assholes and elbows going over the hill, right? And I'm like, bye, Clay. And a few minutes later, he's going. I see him weaseling up the other side of the hill, and I could tell he kind of lost his bearing on where that buck was, the direction he was headed. So I think you called me and you asked where he was, and I got him kind of steered back in the right direction, and he got right in there and started doing his final stalk. And Clay, you take it from there.
Yeah, I had come up the hill, and I was believing he was a little bit farther up the hill than he was. There's not a lot of cover here, and there's not a lot of wind, but it's a straight 90-degree crosswind going downhill. So I don't have any fear. I don't have any fear that, there's a cliff here or anything like that I'm gonna run into and have a wind swirl or something like that. So
is that something that happens though? The wind swirl?
Absolutely. So if you were walking, if you think of water is the same as wind. So when water hits an eddy and it curls back,
yep.
Wind behaves the exact same way as water. So when it comes over a cliff at 20 miles an hour, some of it keeps going 20 miles an hour, and the rest of it hits that and it curls. And if the cliff is angled, it'll corkscrew right down the canyon. So I've had that happen to me a time or two. So there's no wind. This deer has his he's laying, and to where you can't see me. There's stuff in between he and I I told you I'd never take my shoes off. I lied to you again. I took my shoes off twice this year. When there's no wind, it's really, really quiet. So
yes, sir.
So I did. I was down to my socks, and I made it to 35. And at this point, I've got Josie Wales' son like right behind me, and I've got no cover at all, but the sun is right there. So if he stands up, he cannot see me. And I even looked back at Damian a couple times because he was supposed to be able to give me hand signals and stuff. Couldn't see him at all. So a lesson learned for this year. If you truly have the sun at your back and there's a mule deer is going to stand up and look at you, and it's 5 minutes before sunset, he can't see you. He just can't, unless his face goes into a shadow. So knowing that, I would have done a little bit different. I told you last time that I learned to hunt from Cody and Kelsey from watching them on TV. Well, it got me again. So my favorite show gets me again. So I'm looking at him, and I see him do the head twitch, which means I'm going to stand up. So I draw my bow, and as I'm drawing my bow, he's standing up, and he turns his head right towards me. And I took a knee because that's what Cody does. Right? I want this deer to look away from me and then stand back up and dose it. So he doesn't look the other way, and I'm comfortable. I'm shooting a PSC carbon stealth. I'm comfortable. I mean, what is it, 6 pounds I'm holding back or something like that. So I've got my anchor down, and I've actually got the cam set on the ground. Like, I'll just stand here. Everything's okay. And I'm on a hillside, so I'm on my knees on the hillside. I just took one knee down. And pretty soon he looks like he's going to turn the other way, and I stand back up. Well, he hops this little cliff and starts walking at me. So now he's right here. He's walking at me like this, and I can't shoot at him because he keeps putting his horns as he's eating in front of his vitals. And not to mention, he's looking right at me, and I feel like he can see me. So now I had mentally prepared for him to be at 35, so I was going to split my 30 and my 40. Well, now he's at 25. And when that deer is coming at you like that, you're not going to keep your wits about you. Like when he's walking at you in open country, I mean, maybe somebody who's killed a lot bigger deer and a lot more of them than me could keep it together, but I didn't have anything to do or say at that moment. I was dying. So he gives me that, oh shit, he's got a gun look. You know what I'm talking about, where they're like,
yeah, with that panic freeze, something's wrong.
Yeah. He sees me and he goes like this, and he shows me some rib. And that was enough for me. I let him have it. And I hit him, that much too high, 3 or 4 inches too high, because he was another 10 yards away, or 10 yards closer, excuse me. And I got full penetration up to the fletch. And of course he wheels, and then he runs down the canyon, and he starts running at Damian, and he runs back on himself, and he jumps the fence, and he runs the other way onto a different property that we don't have permission on. And he ends up on his way running down through the canyon. I could see just black blood. I could also see that the exit wound was this far below the spine on the other side. So I know that I've got liver. Like, I know that I sent a big broadhead through his liver. A lot of the time you can see what's happening, meaning if you have a wounded deer out in that big country, you can just find him again. But he had went on that other property there, so that was it. We got permission from the landowner to look for an hour. The
landowner's wife.
And by the way, I don't hold anything against them. If I get a problem with that, I need to buy ground, right? Like, it's their ground. I'm just lucky that they. You still with me?
Yeah, you're still there.
Timed out.
Yeah. I'm just lucky that they gave me permission in the first place. That's all there is to it. So, we go back the next day. We looked really, really hard in that hour, and we don't find him. So I've got to skip way ahead. I go back. If Trevor doesn't fall asleep, look at him.
No, I'm paying attention.
He's sucked in.
On me though. You were like left side, now you went to the right side. I gotta like look down. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've given up on the deer. It is what it is. So I'm going back there to hunt, and I go back a week or two later. Don't see any deer. Don't kill anything. I go back right after I killed my whitetail in Illinois. I was back there like on the 5th of November. And I start seeing these guys that are there, and they are they're kind of hunting the same stuff that I hunt. And I stop and I'm nice to them. They're decent guys. And I talk to them on the road, and within an hour and a half, we've met each other again in a different location. And, we're trying not to hurt what everybody's got going on. And we were both on the road at this point, and they get out and they're giving me information on a deer that's on property I have permission and they don't. I'm getting permission from them on, I'm giving them information on deer that weren't up my alley, that were definitely something that they would be interested in. and there's 4 of them, you know what I mean? So, and they're Iowa boys. They know what a big deer is. They seem to be pretty good guys. So we're standing there talking, and another truck pulls up, right? And there's 4 people in this truck. And all of a sudden, 2 dudes get out of that truck. And it's like, oh, God, you know, that is a ton of people. Like, my God, how many people are in your freaking hunting party? It was like an Iowegian clown car, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, another dude gets out. So now there's 7. And it's like,
if I've never been out west, like 1,500 acres sounds like a lot, but out there in that type of country and out west, 1,500 acres hunts like 50 acres in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Because you're only hunting a certain small portion of it, yeah?
Well, you're hunting all of it, but you can see all of it. So it takes, 1,500 acres for one person to hunt isn't that much land. It sounds like it's a ton of land. And, I mean, what is that? Technically, it's, 2 square miles, but that is not a lot of land when it comes to Western hunting.
Yeah, and you get up on one hike.
Very quickly cover that ground. So to have 8 guys.
Well, there's 7. There's 7, right?
Guys so in a small area, you got to realize that's putting a lot of pressure on the area, basically. Go ahead, Clay.
So I said, Jesus, how many of you are there? And the guy goes, well, there's 8. And I'm like, well, where the hell are you keeping them? I mean, this was just an extended cab truck, and the 8th guy gets out. And like a little Hawkeye Magua, what are those things on Gremlins called? Mogwai or something like that.
I think.
Don't feed people from Iowa after midnight. Don't get them fucking wet, or bows will sprout out of them, and then there'll be more and more of them. Right?
They're like the Amish.
Oh, dude, there were so many Iowegians standing around me, but they were all really cool, right? And they had been there, and they killed 9 does already, and they'd been there 6 days, and nobody killed a buck. So we're kind of swapping ideas and things. And I told my story about this big velvet deer, and I explained, he had 2 kickers off the side of his left G2, and I'm kicking rocks, and hey, if you happen to see something like that, at this point, Damian has convinced me he's still alive, and because he couldn't see the hit like I could see it, but you want to believe it, so I guess I believed it. And I take off and I go to that original property that was 10 miles away, because there's 8 dudes from Iowa here, right? And they're helping me, and I'm helping them, and everything's going to be cool, but I'm just going to go up there and check what's out. So I no sooner pull in, and this guy sends me a text. His name's Kevin. He's a badass. Kevin sends me a text, and it says, I was going to show you the picture, but it doesn't matter. It's a picture of my deer, of a deadhead, and it just says deadhead on it. And I said, oh, my God, that's my deer. And there's no mistaking at that moment, because you don't know. If you'd asked me to draw a picture of him 3 weeks later, I don't know. It maybe would have kind of been close. But when you see the picture, on a deer like this. And I said, oh, my God, that's my deer. Where's that on a map? And I ended up just calling him. And I said, meet me at the Chainsaw House, which is what I call anytime there's an old house that looks like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre would happen at it. I always call it. So I said, meet me at the Chainsaw House, and we'll go there. And he says, yeah, that's cool. 2 hours later, after I told him that, these dudes are walking a canyon, and they find my deer.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, man.
For all of that to come together the way it came together, and for you to be out there, and I mean, like, so many things. He had to kill early in Illinois. He went back to Nebraska to whitetail hunt, and on a whim decided he was going to go mule deer hunt. And he gets there and runs into these dudes, and 2 hours before they stumble across it, it's just... Yeah.
It was meant to be. That was totally meant to be.
Yeah, the dude that actually found his name was Scott, and I come rolling up to their group, you know, and then it's like a crowd. It's a full party of people, right? I come rolling up to their group. I slam on the brakes. I throw my door open. I said, "Who's Scott?" And they're all pointing over there like, "What's this dude doing?"
We
I
can
said,
see a
"That
fight.
son of a bitch is in danger of getting a big hug." I ran over and you know, he gave me a high five and a big old hug, and I don't think they understood at that moment what kind of a fanatic I am and what we were dealing with and what kind of pressure I put myself under and what they had really done for me. So I'll shorten it up because it's just a deadhead story at that point. We call the game warden. Game warden says if I'm certain that it's my deer, which I am, and I had texted Damian, send me those pictures of him in his bed, and Damian, I showed Damian the picture, and
there was no ifs, ands, or buts like that. The first photo he sent where it still had the vertebrae and everything attached to it. It was like the last before he bedded down. It was that exact angle that I got a look of him, and it made it look like he had two flyers off the left side. But show him that, Clay. His G2 actually grows funky, and from that angle, it looks like another
it
flyer.
kicks back.
Oh yeah, yep.
So it looked like it was a flyer from that angle, and you know, that was the angle of that photo that he sent, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's no mistaking that.
Those giant Nebraska brow tines, though.
Yeah, right.
This one didn't even score. This is a great deer. And now let's talk about his expectations. What do you think this deer scored?
I would call it 200. I mean, the fucking thing's giant.
74.
164. And so for a guy to come out with expectations that are 164, now think of everything that this deer has and everything his deer didn't. So for the non-white mule deer hunters, he didn't have this, he didn't have this, and he didn't have this. And he still made 160.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
what a side-by-side picture that this would have been.
Clay, what's the age on your deer, would you say?
I'm gonna call this deer 5.5.
Okay, and what do you think that yours is, Damian?
I don't know mule deer enough to guess it, honestly. I mean, he was definitely mature. But...
He was that 6.5, 7.5 kind of guy. Big deer. He was.
I don't know mule deer enough to say positively or to put an age on him. You just know he's mature. You know, his body was huge, his giant Roman nose. You know, he had everything.
He had it.
Yeah, he had it all. Double throat patch. I mean, not that it says age, but he was just a perfect deer for me.
He was Ken of the muley world.
Yeah.
You were meant for each other.
Right. It was my Barbie.
That's that unicorn.
Yeah.
I called the game warden and we took care of it. And as long as it was my deer, I was able to tag it, and which burns a buck tag, but that's
worth it.
That's
you
my
were going to burn that. You were going to burn that tag anyways, whether you found that deer then or you found it now.
Yeah, the only thing bad about the whole situation is that deer doesn't count. We're in something called the bow hunting league, and we can talk about that maybe in another show. But the bow hunting league is for the king of tines. One of the categories, it's your total inches. Well, I lost 164 inches.
144.
Yeah, they for a mule deer they take away 20, but I lost 144 inches towards that and just erased all of my chances for it to be in the running. But we'll talk about that much later. But I really wish I could have recovered him in time so he would have been within the rules. Because if you look up my scores now, I'm down there on the scrub list. Like I'm in the low end. You know?
I'm in number 14.
Yeah, he's not on the scrub list.
Guys, I'm number 14. So
and it's fine. Like I don't care. It's not like we actually win anything, but
right, yeah.
You know, I mean, it makes you feel good to be at the top of the list. Nobody wants to come in last, you know. So
if you're not first, you're last.
That's That's right.
Shake and bake.
Ricky Bobby. That's what it is. This team shake and bake. There it is. I found it.
Yeah.
That should have been our name.
That is. Damn.
If you don't like lube knocks, fuck you.
Some will get that, some won't.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask, Clay, did you explain to him that his hunt is not a typical first time mule deer hunt? I don't want him having that fake impression.
Oh, it is with me, baby.
Easy.
It is with me.
He's with the buck collector,
Clay
bro.
is that good.
Buck collector Clay. Look it up.
I do definitely want to go back on a couple of different questions. So, you had said, Damian, that you were wearing like a ghillie suit. Is that a normal attire when it comes to Western hunting?
That was so Clay has this truck he calls the Snow Beast, and it has 2 of everything you could ever possibly need loaded in that thing someplace. You might have to dig for it, but it's in there somewhere.
Yep. You need an axe. You need an axe. Yep. You need a French 75 millimeter. There's 2 of them.
Yeah. There's 2 of everything. Hydraulic jack. It's in there. You know,
Yep.
whatever the case may be, it's in there. You just got to dig for it. And when I decided to go over there, he's like, take the ghillie suit. He's like, it's rolled up in the little bag pouch thing in the side of the Snow Beast. So that was honestly, that's the first time I ever wore a ghillie suit, and it was 90 degrees, and wearing a ghillie suit 90 degrees is pretty damn miserable.
It's warm. Oh yeah.
Jesus. And then hunting out of the ground blinds, like is that a normal Western style thing, or is that something that you brought from the Middle East to the West?
That, honestly, that hunt was a little bit of my whitetail. I definitely hunted that deer a lot like I would have hunted a whitetail. Like it turned out to be a little bit of a spot and stalk, but I mean, my full intentions was to hunt that deer on an early season pattern and kill him. And there's no trees. So, I was planning on killing him, on an early season pattern and not spot and stalking him, like a typical Western hunt. It ended up being sort of spot and stalk, sort of hunting, just because of the way that everything came together. I definitely didn't expect to see him walking in broad daylight 2 hours before dark, walking.
Especially when you had seen a lot of those deer at last light.
Yeah, everything was at last light because it was so hot.
We weren't seeing any deer. Like we kind of omitted that. There weren't any deer.
You were seeing them right at daybreak and right at last light. And then you would drive the roads after dark and you would see deer run across the road in the dark. But it was just hot and humid, and they just weren't doing anything. That's the best Clay's ever looked right there.
Yeah, right there, blacked out. So is that so when there's ag up like that, like the corn is up like that, Clay, that's a very tough time for you, like it would be for us east.
100%. Now, I mean, deer like people. Doesn't matter whether they're mule deer or whitetails. You guys know I use that deer like people thing. Some people like to hang out on a golf course in the wide open. Other people like to go hide in the mountains. So there are deer that will just lay in the middle of a pasture. We weren't finding any of those.
Right.
No.
Okay.
So
and when it's that hot, your game plan is you try to catch them either bedding in the open, or if they're bedded in the corn late mornings, you're trying to catch them when that sun gets straight up and it's beating down on them in the corn. They'll get up and walk into the canyons and crawl up under a tree someplace. So you're trying to catch them doing that to where you can go in and stalk them. But we weren't finding them at all. And it was, it went from pretty dismal expectations to full elation, pretty damn quick. And, then we found, after I killed and then found the one for Clay, it made me feel like I did my part. I fulfilled my part of the agreement. I didn't just kind of bow out and be like, well, I'm ready to go home, that sort of thing. I still.
He was out tearing apart canyons and working his ass off for me. And there are people who don't even know how to do that. It's not that they wouldn't because they're a jerk or something. There's people that don't know how to do that. There's people that need help.
Right.
He needs no help other than,
hang out with Clay. No.
Yes.
No, he needs no help. So, and I'm not kissing his ass. I'm not kissing your ass, Damon. I really don't, Damian. I really don't even like you. So,
you're just a good hunting partner. That's about it.
I need somebody there to drag my deer out.
That's it, man. I mean, look at him. No, but
you don't find your deer to little skeletons, so you don't need any help dragging them out.
Yeah,
a little bit lighter.
But that's important in a deer camp or a deer hunting, partnership. Like you need that, man. Like you need somebody. You need guys that work well together, man. That know what they have going on. I mean, that's an important thing. I mean, just like me and Steven when we were in Ohio, man, it's just divide and conquer and find those deer. And
in all honesty, like a good partner in my mind tries to, Clay was in the dump. It was down and out after shooting that deer. And I will tell you this, Clay is a fun, jovial guy. There's not much you can do to go push it too far when you're cracking jokes, but you can do it too soon. Because when I started busting his balls about backstrapping that deer, Clay wasn't having it a whole lot. And I just kept poking the bear because when I smell blood, I just keep jabbing at it, Clay wasn't the fondest, but, I tried to keep his spirits up. I kept him, we kept trying to get on deer. We weren't finding a whole lot or seeing a whole lot at that point, and the temperatures were just going up and up. And we were hunting. It was the Friday evening. We were supposed to hunt till Sunday, and Saturday was supposed to be 103. Sunday was supposed to be 105. And we're sitting in the middle of this pasture, just sweating our butts off, trying to locate deer. And Clay's like, "What are we doing? What are we doing here? We're not seeing deer. We're pushing the limits of where we need to be and where we can be." And he's like, we need to go. And I'm like, this is your hunt. I'm here for the long haul. And whatever you want to do, I'm here for your hunt. And while I'm saying this, I don't even realize that I'm putting my backpack on. Like,
I forgot that. He was like, holy shit, I forgot all about that. He was like, oh God, I wish I had a coat or something. The dude's like, hey, look, dude, no matter what, like I'll be here all day. If I am here for you, this is your hunt. Let's stay here. Let's stick it out.
I didn't even realize I was doing it, and then I called myself out on it.
Oh, that's funny as hell.
It seemed like you guys had just an incredible mule deer hunt, though. Like, and this was your guys' first hunt together as a team.
Yeah, ever.
And you guys killed 2 160s. That's horrible.
Yeah, right. Horrible.
164.
There it is.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was everything I could have ever had wished for in my first mule deer hunt and experience, in Western Nebraska. And it met everything and meant a lot to me that, Clay invited me out there and gave me the opportunity to do that. So I can't thank him enough.
You're welcome.
But then I gave him the greatest black bear hunt that he's ever experienced.
Yeah, I mean, I have. There are not many times.
Hey, before you go farther, tell me one other bear hunt you've ever been on that was better than that one.
There isn't. There aren't any.
What's that say?
So I stared at the side of a mountain for 5 days straight and saw a squirrel, a bird, and a spike buck for 42 seconds.
Damn.
And I wasn't gonna hunt, and he's like, "You gotta hunt. We're here to hunt. You gotta hunt." So I buy a tag and hunt, and I ended up killing a bear.
Oh,
that's hilarious.
Awesome bear. Awesome bear.
Good
I was
bear.
super happy.
Sounds like Trev's luck. The morning that they left from his bear hunt, as they're packing I've got a picture of a 350-pound bear sitting right in front of the tree he was in.
It's very similar to how it all went down. Like so I have family in West Virginia where we bear hunt, and it never fails. Like the month of October there's always a hot spot when the bears start showing up, and he'll be like, "Hey, we're seeing bears all the time. You need to get down here." And I've gone down 2 other times, and I shot a 350-pound bear down there, and I shot a 250-pound bear down there. And so I told Clay, there's good odds. Like he sees a lot of bears. We get on a lot of bears. And, my cousin's like, "Oh, there's no acorns. There's no acorns all summer long, right? There's no acorns. The bears are just going to be all over the place looking for food." And we're like, okay. So then we get down there and there's acorns everywhere. Like it is literally the red oaks were just absolutely pouring out of the trees while we're there. And, his cameras that he had, wasn't getting any bears anymore. And like the day before we got there, he got a picture of a great big bear at,
what is this? I can't see it. Bullshit.
This is bullshit meter.
You know what? Honestly, Damian, before you get too crazy in this, we're going to do a part 2. Why don't we finish the bear side on a part 2? Because let's string these guys along just a little bit.
Okay, we're good with that. We'll finish
Cliffhanger?
that.
What do you think?
Cliffhanger, yeah.
Because then they have to listen to you guys again.
And if you're going to release them at different times, go watch those videos of Damian recovering that deer. That's pretty awesome. I mean, not saying my video is awesome, just the experience, and you'll be able to really put it together while you're listening. And it's neat. The look on his face when he finds that mule deer is priceless.
So this is going to release. This will release on Thanksgiving. So this is the Thanksgiving special for the drive to Thanksgiving, and then part 2 will come therefore shortly after. So,
what's your Instagram, Damian?
Damian_hunts.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and let's just leave this on a cliffhanger.
We'll talk about our whitetails next.
Yeah, we'll carry this on. So everyone out there listening, stay tuned. Catch the next one, and let's finish the tale. Till then, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.